I do remember seeing clips of him on Joe Rogan and just having the confidence of a wildly successful NFL quarterback who's still in the league at 40. And like Joe would ask like some trying to be nice fact-finding question, like, so what did you think when like the younger guys came in and this and that and the other, and you know you were kind of on the later stage of your career, and he would just respond so dismissive and glib, which is not something that people respond to Joe Rogan in a way. Like you see him as the Khan, the kingmaker. Like you try to appease Joe at all costs, and Aaron Rodgers is there like, yeah, I think that's the kind of question that people don't know fucking anything about our sport ask. It was just like, holy shit, like this guy, he just doesn't
I like
care.
that. I think it's kind of neat when a guy who doesn't need Joe Rogan is on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
You know, because then they're not just like all Joe Rogan's friends, I think, are kind of hangers on. You know, they're all below him.
Some yes men. Yeah.
Yeah. But a guy like Aaron Rodgers, or like, heck, even like when a big politician comes on, they're still using that platform, like trying to do a thing. Aaron Rodgers is not in that position. Joe Rogan, this podcast doesn't make or break him. He's doing it for kicks.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I kind of wanted to meet Joe. Sounds neat. Like,
right.
And that's probably why he did it. Whereas a lot of people are like, this is my chance. This is my time. I've listened to Shane Gillis clips before where he talks about the first time he went on Joe Rogan, and he's like, oh, dude, I like tried a few jokes early and they weren't landing. And I was sitting there, and then Joe would ask me another question. I'd be like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And like, I answered like such a fucking homo. And I knew everybody out there, the millions and millions and millions of people were like, this guy isn't funny. No wonder he got fired from SNL. Just like knowing that, because that has to be terrifying. Like that, is there a scarier show to go on as a guest? Like, because there's no show with more, there's no show with more viewers.
But like
it opens you up to more potential criticism than ever.
I remember I was hanging out with what's his name, Dakota Meyer. He's at the time he was the only living recipient of the Medal of Honor. He just won it in Afghanistan. He like disobeyed orders and jumped on the back of a Humvee or something on a 50 cal and like went into where the enemy was, where his buddies were hurt, and killed a shitload of people with a mounted gun, and then got off to like rescue somebody and ended up in a hand-to-hand fight with a Taliban, and he killed the guy with a rock. So like I'm hanging out with that guy, and he just had done, I think, Piers Morgan, or it was somebody like, no, it was the mean one. Who was the mean conservative bald guy? We'll do it live. That guy.
Wait, the mean bald guy.
Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly. He had just done Bill O'Reilly, I think, and O'Reilly had like ambushed him and been mean to him, and he was all bummed out. And like, I think that would be a worse thing, because Joe won't do that to you. Joe's just going to see what you're about. I've never seen him ambush anybody or like be mean to them. But this was live. He had just come back from it, and he was just bummed out. He didn't want to.
Joe's not going to be shitty to you, but the enormous audience he has might be. And it's like, what was Bill O'Reilly's like max audience? Like 4.1 million, like maybe at its absolute peak,
like it's
in
not
like
measured
2014.
accurately. Like a lot of times, a TV show, they really look at how many people watched it live that day. And they don't add up all the YouTube like clips that came from it over time. Like there's more exposure than they make it out to be. I don't think the gap is as big as they say it is. It's there, but that's
fair to say too, because like and that has been a huge issue in the advertising world for like the past 10 years, because they're like, oh, you want us to pay you X amount to promote on your YouTube channel when it's going to get these amount of views. And it's like, well, you're looking at the first 48 hours, when in reality you should kind of be taking a bit more into account, and also the kind of the tangential routes that they can take to learn more. That's how it's been for a good bit, but I would still be terrified to go on Joe Rogan more than any other show, because it's just regardless of how you quantify traditional media, they don't even sniff Joe Rogan's numbers. If Fox News was getting Joe Rogan numbers per episode or per Hannity, or I guess Tucker isn't a part of that anymore, they'd be like dancing in the street. Like they would be ecstatic at that. And Joe Rogan's like racking up 20 million people listening over different platforms per episode.
That Trump episode, I think, really pushed him over the edge. I think that 60 million people watching Trump, and then the next day, like 15 or 20 watching JD Vance. And then the next day, it was somebody also in the administration or somebody tangentially related. Or maybe it was, I don't remember who it was now. Oh no, it might have been the VP candidate on the other side. It was, I don't recall now. But anyway,
Tim
Walz that was crazy. That was crazy that he didn't go on Joe. I'm wrong about that.
No,
that was crazy that Trump got like 60 and then JD got like 15 or 20 or something. I think it mattered. I think people got to see like a sort of a normal, laid back, funny side of Trump that he didn't seem as mean and belligerent and cruel. He seemed relatable, and that's what he needed. I think it helped.
And if you scrubbed through that interview, as I did a couple times, like there were whole segments that had nothing at all to do with politics, which I think, to your point, Kyle, humanized Trump a lot in that way, where it would be Trump asking Joe, like, how do you even get involved in stand-up? Like, how do you even think you're funny enough for people to listen to you? Like, what happened in your life that you thought, I'm so much funnier than everyone else in my world that this is a job for me? And then it would be Rogan.
Did Trump asked that? I didn't see.
Yeah, it was something to those lines. And then it was like Rogan explaining the stand-up world to him in a way. Or like Trump being very earnest asking about UFC stuff, because Trump is clearly a UFC guy, but he doesn't have the knowledge of a Rogan.
Casual fan.
Obviously. Yeah, a casual fan. And so he would they'd spent like 20 minutes where Trump's like, I'm not sure about that. I don't think he's one of the best fighters. And then Joe's like, no, but this is what you're not seeing. He does this. He does that. These are things that if you're casual, you're not going to pick up on. And, then you hear Trump be like, that makes a lot of sense to me. Interesting. I never would have watched a fight from those angles. So it was invaluable having Trump do that shit. And the Harris campaign made such a blunder not going on, or like they tried to give Joe like some little rules where it's like, it can't go longer than this. We can't address this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, no, at this point, like the Harris campaign should have been like, we're already probably going to lose. Feed into the fire. Do it. Go. See if we can make this positive.
I wish I knew the whole story, because like I've heard different snippets here and there. Like Harris wanted Joe to come to the White House. He's like, no, I do this in my studio, or fuck off. And then Harris is like, okay, I'll come to your studio. And Joe's like, sorry, I don't have any time for the vice president. And she's like, all right, well, we can do this other time. And Joe's like, no, that time doesn't work for me either. And I'm like, what is happening? If you guys wanted to make this happen, you would have made it happen. But it seems like both sides are coming up with rules to stop it from happening. That's, I think, the complete picture, but who knows?
It could be. My understanding is that like both Trump and JD had to agree to like nothing is off limits, and the show will not be edited. Editing. There will be no editing of this show. And so you show up, you talk to Joe Rogan for 4 hours, and then that is the show that gets uploaded. There's no requisitioning us for editing afterward. And that was, from what I heard from the news and whatnot, is something that the Harris campaign wasn't willing to do, which again was a huge mistake. It's like, you're losing anyway right now. Like, put your feet to the fire, jump in the pit. Like, if you fuck up, then you fuck up. Like, you're already losing. Like, try.
I heard there were a bunch of people in the Harris campaign. Harris herself wasn't really hip to like pop culture, but who were like, no, you don't want to go on the Joe Rogan show. It's bad news. He's racist, white supremacist, whatever terrible thing you might miscast him as. And you gotta
fire that.
And those voices were in the campaign that made her not pursue it like she could have.
I believe that fully, that she wasn't familiar enough, and then she believed someone she thought was being wise, and they were really misleading her in a terrible way. Like, oh, he's just going to be racist, white supremacist. And it's like, really, the most popular show on earth is a racist, white supremacist? Are you sure it's not a fucking goober fighting guy? Like,
I think she's going to run again. I think she's going to get smoked again.
She won't run. No way.
Yeah, she should.
She's not. Okay, what I heard is she was almost a slam dunk if she had run for governor of California.
They say.
And she decided not to run for that. And they think that implies that she's going to run for president. Also, she doesn't say she doesn't want to be president. She's like, well, we'll see where the future takes us, which is what people who run say. So
that's a huge mistake. She is not a popular candidate. If you lose to Trump, it's proof pudding that you've got some stink on you. Like that's the only way you lose to Trump in a national election. That's why Hillary lost. Hillary had so much stink on her from the Comey stuff, from the old school stuff, from just the Clinton stink. All those people that died back in the day, and then just her establishment politics, business as usual. Her fake leaning toward the black community with I got hot sauce and my thing, and then she was fainting, and they were like loading her into a fucking SUV like a bag of groceries that time, and it was just one thing after another. Kamala was never going to beat Trump. I just really don't believe she will.